Hey, it is 11:28 at night, and I just finished Carrie. I don't even know where to begin because this really kind of got to me a little bit. I don't know. As I was reading through this, there's no doubt why this is one of the most popular horror books. I'm literally speechless reading this. So let's start or from like a structure point of view. It's a really fast read. There's a lot of main action that happens that is interspersed with these like accounts from these scientific journals and like accounts from people that were there the night of like the prom massacre and things that kind of break up the main action and start laying the groundwork. And then as the story progresses, we can see the timeline form and we can see everything happen kind of in this anachronistic way, which is really cool. I thought that was a really cool way to approach the story and the action. There were several times, especially as like we got to the end and all the destruction started happening, everything was told out of timeline. And then we would cut back to the main action, and then see it unfold. So we'd hear like the accounts from people of like what Carrie was doing, and then we'd flip to the action of Carrie doing it. I thought that was really fascinating. My one complaint about that is that sometimes I felt like we broke away from the main action too much. There were a couple times where we added in some of these accounts and then we kind of do what I call the yada yada in media, where because we broke away from the main action, we kind of sped through some stuff that maybe I would have liked to have spent a little more time. There was a lot of time given to Carrie's abilities and how she controlled them, but I think maybe we could have taken out some of that and focused a little more on that. But overall, the structure was really solid. I knew what was going to happen. Like I knew what was going to happen, and I still was sitting there just like wide eyed, and like this pit in my stomach was forming, watching or reading and seeing the story unfold. So just incredibly well done. Thematically, this is where, and I know I'm probably going to get on a soapbox here, so just bear with me. This is where I want to be really clear about my stance on something, and that is I am a firm believer that art and writing is an art form. Art is political in nature. And one of the things I love about the horror genre is that we get to tackle really heavy themes in these supernatural or extraordinary ways that make it feel a little easier to digest, because it's like, oh, that would never happen because of the supernatural elements. But then when you take those away, you're left with these moral dilemmas and these moral questions. And this is no exception, because this story highlights the importance of mental health, about getting help when we're in traumatic experiences. You know, it's a story about trauma and bullying and harassment and what happens when people are pushed to the edge and don't get the help that they deserve. And the fact that the story was set in the 60s and 70s, and we still are having these discussions today, we still are having these conversations today, just goes to prove that stories like this are important. And there are going to be people that are going to say this story is not important and we shouldn't read this because of the supernatural elements and because of the horror of it. But when you strip all that stuff away, it is a story about a young high school student who experienced incredible trauma in her family, was bullied relentlessly, and had literally a psychotic break and did the unthinkable. And the fact of the matter is, we see that happen in society today. So, like, I just want to be very clear on that. That's my stance on things. And so, stories like this are important because of that. So I'm going to get off my soapbox around that, but I had to say that because this is one of the things that I think the horror genre does well, is taking those complex topics and putting them in a way that it feels easier to digest until you strip away those those supernatural or those like over the top elements, and then you're like, we do need to talk about this. We do need to have this conversation. All in all, for my first book to read, I think this is setting an incredibly high bar. If I was to rate this, I would probably rate it like a 9.5 out of 10. There are some structure things like I talked about that weren't like critical, but there are some things in here that I think make it keep it from a perfect score, but an incredible book. If you have not read this, I encourage you to do it. It is fantastic. And it will leave you with a lot of things to consider. So yeah, that's my review. That's my first book down. I have 82 to go, and if you're wondering 82, I thought you said you started with 82. It should be 81. Yeah, I bought a book today. So it's back to 82. So we'll see tomorrow if what the next one's going to be.